Hello everyone, welcome to this channel. Today we will discuss about demand and supply model. So what is demand and supply? This is very basics in economics, like what is demand, what is supply. So let me start with very basic, what is demand? So demand is that how much quantity is demanded for different prices. Okay. So what happens? So the thing is that you have to see here demand, how much quantity is demanded for different prices. So that is the demand function. Okay. And this is the outcome of an economic agent's optimization or maximization. Okay. So for example, here in the quantity, we always tell it is in very generalized sense. Okay. It is very generalized. The prices also generalized. Let's take some a few cases. Like if you go to in the goods and services market, the quantity is amount of goods and services demanded. What is the price? Price is the goods of services. I mean the price of the goods and services. So given the prices of goods and services, how much quantity is demanded? For example, if you take the potato market, in the potato market, what is the price of potato and how much is the demand for potato, right? How if the prices increases, how the demand is falling, and or how the prices decreases, how the demand is increasing. So that is for the goods and services, right? So who is the optimizer here? Here the optimizer is the consumer. So consumer optimizes how much I shall buy given the prices. Okay. Similarly, if you look at the labor market, in the labor market, the quantity is how much labor actually a farm needs, and accordingly a wage. So if wage rate is higher in the market, then the farm will just have very low labor demand, right? But if the wages are low, then it will have higher labor demand. So who is the optimizer here? The optimizer here is the farms. Correct. Now let's see the third market is the credit. So in the credit, the amount of is demanded is loans, right? Loans is the amount demanded, and the price is interest rate. Like if the interest rate is high, then loans demanded will be low, or if the interest rate is low, then amount of loans demanded will be high. So who is the demander here? The farms are the depositors. Like deposit the retail depositor, those who want credit like personal loans, all these things, or farms, those who take credit for their farms. So all of you got it. What is the meaning of demand? The demand is quantity demanded for different prices, and it depends on which context actually we are talking. Okay, if we are talking in goods market, the optimizer is consumer and the prices of goods or services. And if it is a labor market, the quantity is labor, price is wage, and the farms are the optimizers. And if it is credit market, then its quantity will be amount of loans and the price will be interest rate. Okay, and who the optimizer? Optimizer is the depositors or the farms. Okay, so this is demand. And there is some a few concepts in the economics, like number one is your that is called as your demand curve and demand function. So demand curve refers to the graphical representation of set of all pairs of quantity and prices that are demanded for each price. Okay. So here you take prices and quantity. So for each prices, how much quantity is demanded? You take set of all those, and that will become your demand curve. Now, what is demand function? Demand function for a price, how much maximum quantity is demanded. Like for example, in this case, if you take P is equal to 1, then the maximum quantity will be 12 minus 2 into 1, that is 10. So maximum quantity demanded is 10. If you take 2P is equal to 2, then it will be 12 minus 2, and that is, so it will be like how much? It will be like, something like around 8. Okay, so this is demand function. What is inverse demand function? Inverse demand, so this is inverse demand function, right? In inverse demand function, so right, you write Q as a function of P, then you also can write P as a function of Q. So if you write that way, it will be look like this. So this is known as inverse demand function. Okay. So you got what is demand curve? That is the set of all pairs of quantity and prices that are demanded for each price. Then you have to say that demand function. What is demand function? The maximum quantity demanded for each price, and then it is inverse demand function is what? The inverse demand is just you write P as a function of Q. So this is actually, I forget, this is the maximum quantity. If you see here, it is demanded. Maximum price demand, this maximum quantity demanded for each. Okay. Now let's see how we can represent it graphically. So by convention, it is very, very important to note that by convention, quantity is expressed in the x-axis and price is expressed in the y-axis. Okay. So this is your quantity, how much quantity is demanded and how much it is, how is the price. So this is a very normal, this is a normal, I mean, demand curve. Okay, so this is a very normal demand curve. So you see that when the prices are actually high, the demand is low. When prices are low, then demand is high. So this is the graphical representation of demand function. Okay. And this is the plot of inverse demand function, because here the price is a function of quantity. Okay, all of you got it? So this is the most important you need to remember. Right, so here let's take about the supply. Okay, so another side of the market is supply. So who supplies? Okay, so another, it is also economic. So like in the goods and market, who supplies? So in that condition, the demanders were the consumers, but in the supplies are the farms. So they decide how much they should supply for given prices. And in the labor market, who supplies the labor? Households. So they decide, given the wage rate, how much we should supply the labor. Similarly, in the credit market, who is the supplier? Banks and savers. They will supply in the given interest rate how much loans I should supply. Okay, so supply is just the inverse of demand, that how much is going to supply for given price. And the definition for supply curve and supply functions are similar. So you see, this is a supply function. This is the quantity they are going to supply for each prices. Okay, how much quantity? So if you see that if the prices are high, right? If the prices are high, they are going to supply more quantity. Okay, so because that is more profitable to them. Okay, so this is the why. So this is the graphical representation of the supply function. Okay. Now let's see the equilibrium. So here we have, this is the, this is our demand and this is our supply. So, this is the demand from the consumers. This is the supply of the, we have represented it like here. Okay, this curve is given by here. Now you see this point is known as equilibrium. Okay, this is known as equilibrium. What is equilibrium? Equilibrium is that price or that quantity and that price, okay, where demand equal to supply. At this price, the demand value is 7 and the supply value is also 7. So price is your 7 and quantity is also how much? I think it should be 7. Okay, it should be 7, but it's not representing here. Okay, so that's what. So another thing is that you have to see that how much people actually, how much they actually supply for different. And you see actually in the equilibrium, if you see this graph, so, oh, sorry. So this is the quantity. Yeah, this is perfect. This is perfect. Yeah, this is perfect. So this is 5 and the price is 7. Okay, price is 7. So you see that when the prices are 5, 7, right? And the prices are 7. Okay, then the I think we have did a blunder. I think it should be it should be the quantity. This is the supply demand. This is the demand price. This is supply price. Okay, sorry, you have done demand price and supply price. So here what happens at 7 and 7, the quantity demanded is 4. So you see at this point, okay, your market got equilibrium because there is no excess demand, but there is no excess supply. Okay, so this is how it works, right? This is how it works, right? Like if you see that in the if you see that in the all those things, okay, like for example, in this case, then what happens actually? The market is in equilibrium. In that case, that because what happens here, you see that there is no excess demand or excess supply. Okay. Now, now let's go to the next. Now let's go to the next slide. So in the next slide, we are going to talk about very important concept that is known as floor pricing or selling pricing. What is selling price and floor price related? Like in the equilibrium, if this is our supply and demand in the equilibrium, okay, you see this is equilibrium. In this equilibrium, but sometimes what happens is equilibrium price or is very low. For example, like in farmers, okay, the farmers in India, like in agricultural sector, many of the population, I mean, a majority of the population are engaged in the agricultural sector. So what happens whenever there's a bumper production or something happens like this? So the equilibrium price becomes very low. You must have seen in many newspaper that whenever there's a very bumper production, prices go down, like something like 2 rupees. I mean, tomato kg is rupees 2 per kg or something like this. So what happens whenever this happens? It disincentivizes farmers to produce. So at that time, the equilibrium price may not be a right price for the farmers. So what happens? What happens actually in that case? Government sets a floor price. You must have heard about this name, MSP. Every budget they announce it. It is minimum support price. So they said this is the price, okay, and below this price there will be no there will be no, I mean, no one will be able to sell below that price. So either you sell above this price, right, above this price, or you sell at this price. So this is the minimum support price. So you are supporting the farmers, okay, or you are supporting the agriculture sector by setting a minimum price of their products. Okay, so this is minimum support price. And then also you must have heard about like minimum wage law. What is minimum wage law? In that token, so they set a minimum wage. Okay, they set a minimum wage. That means like in rural areas, the minimum wage rate is always set by the government, so that those who are living in rural area, they should not be exploited by some very large farmers, so that they will pay very less wage to them. So instead, they fix this price so that the workers should get at least this amount of money in their as a wage rate. Okay, so that's why this is known as floor pricing. Floor means, floor means that is something that's comes just below your foot, right? So what happens? So in that case, that means either you keep price here or below. So this is your floor, right? And you keep your prices above. All of you got it? What is floor pricing? Then in the equilibrium, what is called ceiling prices. What is ceiling prices? Sometimes, like here, sometimes the rent of the houses becomes very high in certain cities or something like that. It becomes very difficult for them to stay or live. So in that case, okay, government imposes an ceiling price. Ceiling means that comes just above your head. That means you can't set price above this. You can't set price above this or in the equilibrium, because the equilibrium is demand is very high, equilibrium is also very high. So you can't set because if you set this equilibrium price, it will be very high in the market, and some people will be excluded from that market. So therefore, in that case, what happens? What happens? So they set a price above which no one will charge. So rent ceiling or something like that. Another also, we think, I just forgot that, like in floor pricing here. So in the floor pricing here, what happens? If you set higher prices, there's also higher production, and this is the higher production, and this is the demand from the domestic. So whatever this amount is there, that will be purchased by the government. Okay, that will be purchased by the government. This amount, okay, this amount will be purchased by the government. So that's what actually said. So this is the difference between floor pricing and ceiling. So today we learn a very simple topic. Okay, today we learn a very simple topic, that is what is demand and supply, how demand comes from different market, different contexts. Then we talked about what is demand curve, demand function, and inverse demand function. Then we talked about the graph, and also this very important convention that your quantity should be always in the x-axis and price should be in the y-axis. Then we talked about the supply function, how supply function is decided in different markets. Then we also saw it in the graph. Then we discussed about the equilibrium, where actually demand equal to supply. Okay, demand equal to supply. So if you come to this place, so there is here excess supply and demand is less. So it is excess supply. If you set this price, this is excess demand. All of you got it? This is excess demand. So, but in equilibrium, there is no excess demand, excess demand. So in the equilibrium, excess supply equal to excess demand equal to 0. So there is no excess supply, but there is no excess demand. Okay. So this is we have learned in the equilibrium. Then also we also learned in the equilibrium what is floor pricing, what is ceiling pricing, and why they are actually imposed in certain markets to bring efficiency or to bring, to support certain category or certain sectors or certain section of people, and also about the ceiling price, how government actually impose certain type of ceilings on certain prices at certain points, so that the consumers should not be exploited. Okay, so these are the few examples I have gave. Okay, so this was done for this today's class. So thank you so much for watching the video. Okay. So all of you, please take care. Thank you so much.